it's in my soul.
Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
Stop holding it in. Get it out. I'm talking about anger. I'm talking about blame, and more importantly, talking about forgiveness. I recently was chatting with someone, and I won't name their name, and they were just like on a rant about how one person in particular had basically screwed them over, and that they couldn't forgive them. And then the next thing out of their mouth is, they just couldn't catch a break. This was the worst year ever, and just nothing went right, and they just couldn't catch a break, and just, I would just say, down on their luck in every aspect of their life. It felt like it. And I mentioned, in a nice way, obviously trying to be a good listener, but I mentioned like, hey, ever thought about maybe forgiving that person? And it was just immediately, no way. They need to forgive me first. And I sat there and thought about that. Looking back in my life, there was a point where someone had done me over, and it was something I could prove. I mean, financially, had basically screwed me out of some money, and it hurt. I liked the person, I had trusted them, and it hurts when that happens to you. And I did not forgive them for the longest time. I talked about it before on a prior podcast, way early in the year. And in looking back, that was one of the kind of the lower points in my life. And, there's that phrase that, being angry at someone for, a year ends up hurting you more than them. I mean, that person had probably already moved on with their life. They had forgotten all about me. And yet here I was spending so much of my energy and my time, and even waking up angry or going to bed angry at this person. And it was hurting me more than it actually hurt them. And I see that time and time again. And I know it's so much easier to just, as a uninterested third party, to look at someone else and say, hey, are you an idiot? Like, why don't you just forgive this person and move on? But it's tough. I get it. It's really tough. And especially if you have been hurt, or maybe someone hurt one of your family members, or just something that just stings and is really, really tough to go away. I get it. But at the same point, you have to forgive, and not just because God calls us to or Jesus calls us to in the Bible. It's the only way to grow. I mean, if you look at all the studies and all the people who have been in some really bad ruts, they will tell you, I mean, it is almost impossible to grow. It is almost impossible to heal if you're sitting there full of anger. It's really hard to be the best version of yourself, and I would say maybe even impossible if you are sitting there angry and not forgiving someone. There's the part in the Bible where Jesus said, if someone sins against us 7 times and repents each time, we are obligated to keep forgiving. But then he takes it a next step, right? And he says, I do not say 7 times, but 77 times. Crazy, right? And how many of us are willing to do that? I know it's tough. And I also know there's people out there who have lost kids. I mean, literally have had their loved one, their own child, taken from them by, either a drunk driver or just a bad person or whatever it is, and found a way to forgive that person. That would be incredibly tough for me. But at the same point, I know these people who have had to go through that know if they just hold on to that hate and just the bitterness, they're never going to grow themselves. And I know it's just so tough. But then again, I just see it time and time again. And this person I spoke to recently, I hope they listen to this. It's just a good reminder, especially this time of the year here, and to start the new year and to kick off a new year and a new you. It is critical that you forgive the people or the groups or whatever it is who have done wrong against you, or you just don't feel like treated you right, or whatever it might be. And, one great way to do it is, just in your mind to forgive them. With this person in particular that I told you about that did me wrong, I sent them an email. I did not want to talk to them. I did not want them back in my life. I know there's some of you, maybe it is a family member that deep down you kind of want them back in your life. But at the same point, you feel like they owe you an apology first, or, they did you wrong, so it's up to them. I would urge you just to take the high road, to be the bigger person. It will be life-changing. It'll be such a burden off of your shoulders to either call that person, or once again, if there's someone you don't want to be around again, just to email them and say, you know what you did hurt me. This is what I said. What you did hurt me. I was angry at you for quite some time, but I just want to let you know I forgive you and I love you. And boom, hit send. And I'm telling you, like, there's this massive weight off of my shoulders. I felt like I could finally focus on what was important to me. And I never really thought about the guy again after that. And nothing bothered me about him anymore. If I heard his name, it used to just tick me off. I'd get all fired up. And once again, I've now lost focus on everything that's important. I can't concentrate. And after that time, after I sent him that email, I didn't even care about him. I have no feelings wrong or right. I'm just kind of past it and over it. And looking back, that was one of the best decisions I ever made. I also say it too because, this day and age, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see all of the anger out there on social media. And, we've had just a crazy year from all the racial tension. We had a crazy year with just riots and protests on both sides. And then we had, of course, the election, and now we've got COVID, and now we get COVID vaccines. And there's just all this anger, and people are just so quick to get offended by everything. They're so quick to get offended by something or someone or some comment. And here's the problem. They never seem to do anything about it. What I mean by that is I see some of the comment strings on some of these posts that are pretty innocent posts, sometimes just someone asking a question, not even trying to stir the pot. I know there's instances where people are literally trying to stir the pot, but just a simple question. And all of a sudden someone goes off and then someone else piles it on. And next thing you know, these two people are arguing. And you can almost visualize them at their homes. They're sitting there refreshing their Facebook. Have you ever done this? They're sitting there refreshing it just to see if this person's going to comment again. And this could go on for hours. You see some of these comment strings that are literally going on for hours, and that person or those two people in that argument online, by the way, who might not even know each other, they can't think about anything else. They're not spending time with their family. They're not loving on people. They're not doing any good in terms of their business or their personal growth. And they're sitting there just ticked off and mad, and they're never really able to even kind of release that anger and offense. It's just really tough to let that stuff go. And it's one of my worries about all of this social media stuff. One of the many is that everyone gets so offended by something they don't agree with it, and then they hold on to it. I think even with social media, you got to forgive the people on there and just let it go. That was one of the best decisions I made, just to stop looking at most of this stuff and spending very, very little time on social media, except for my business life, and to get some ideas for my Unchurched on occasion. But I would urge you too, for this coming year, spend less time on social media, or if you do, go to places that have positive interactions, like our Salt Strong Insider Club, where we don't even allow cursing or negativity. And that was a big reason we did it. I think there's too much of it out there. The last place we need to create is another, forum or a platform where people are negative and cursing at each other. I don't think it ever adds any value, and it's hurting all of us when there's just that much negativity and that much hatred out there. So I would urge you, and I would pray for you this year in 2021, this coming year. Make it, the year of forgiveness. Make it the year where you forgive first, where you're not waiting for someone else. I know that's easier said than done, because I've lived through it. We've all had someone who has done us wrong, or someone who has hurt us, or a group who has hurt us. But I would urge you to do it. I believe that you will get some really, really special gifts. I've seen it in my life. When I just forgive first, I'm able to move on. I am able to grow, and I'm able to just get that burden, if you will, off of my back, off my chest. And then there's one other thing I want to talk about as well, that goes hand in hand with this, and that's forgiving yourself for hurting someone else. I know I've heard from some people who really struggled with that as well. So, the first piece of this was, forgiving someone who has hurt you. But there's many times we're all sinners, right? We've all done something maybe dumb or something we regret that hurt someone that we either loved or maybe even we didn't love. It's never a good thing to hurt someone else intentionally or unintentionally. And so the question, is how do you forgive yourself for hurting someone else? Well, I think first and foremost, you just have to accept yourself. You have to accept that we all have flaws. None of us are perfect. All of us have done something that we would maybe like to take back in terms of potentially hurting someone, or maybe even something we said to a spouse or to one of our kids, where it's just like that gut-wrenching, like, oh, I wish I could take that back. And all you can do is, once again, be first to apologize. It could be that, the roles are now reversed and that person is holding a grudge against you and they're holding in all this anger. And just be the better person. Just be first to forgive, I think, is really the ultimate message here, is forgiveness first. Be the first to forgive. You will see that it is one of the best blessings that you can have. It's one of the best gifts, and it's free. It doesn't cost you any money. It just causes a little bit of maybe a little bit of anxiety up into the day of. I remember before I sent that email to that gentleman, I had a lot of anxiety about it. And once again, as soon as I did it, it was just like anything that gives you a little bit of angst is it kind of stinks for maybe 24 hours. And then after that, it is like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I did that. I'm able to move on with my life, and I'm able to grow, and I'm able to start enjoying things again. So that's it, guys. I wanted to just share that with you because of this recent conversation I had, and make this the year of forgiving first, of not holding any grudges, of not letting anything offend you on social media, just moving on and forgiving and loving. I know that if we all did that, of course, the world would be a better place. But unfortunately, I don't think we'll all be able to do it. But for you, for the thousands of you listening to this episode, this podcast, I mean, if it just starts with us, how amazing would that be? So forgive, start loving more, and let this be the year of your growth. Let this be the year that you truly just blossom, and that you have just some massive, massive abundance in your life. We appreciate you. We love you. And I'll talk to you on the next episode.
'Cause fishing, it's in my soul. It was passed down to me from the days of old. Find us on the water.